My wife broke down crying, tears streaming down her face, pleading with me to drive her to the hospital after she found out her ex had been in a serious accident. "Please," she choked out between sobs. "I have to be there. I still love him." I didn't say a word. I just grabbed the keys, drove her there in silence, and watched as she rushed inside to be by his side. Didn't even glance back at me. That night, after sitting alone with my thoughts for a few hours, I started packing up my things. When she came home later, the apartment was empty. I left a note on the kitchen counter that simply said, "Don't worry, he can have you now." Now she won't stop texting me, blowing up my phone with messages like, "I didn't mean it," and "Please, come back." Let me rewind a bit. I'm 34 now, and I met Susan, who's 31, at a birthday party for a mutual friend about 5 years back. She was standing off by the snack table, kind of awkward and clearly not knowing many people there. You know that look? Half smile, arms crossed, scanning the room like she's just trying to survive the next hour. I walked over, handed her a beer, and made some dumb joke about how the dip looked like it could kill a man. She laughed, really laughed, and something about that moment hit me in the chest like a sucker punch. We spent the rest of the night talking, just the two of us. Before I left, I got her number. Things escalated fast after that. The connection between us felt electric, like we were synced up in a way I'd never experienced. We'd finish each other's thoughts, geek out over the same obscure books and weird documentaries. Yeah, the whole cliché package. 3 months in, we were basically living at each other's places, and by 6 months we got a place together and made it official. At some point early on, she told me she'd been single for about a year before we met. She'd broken up with her college boyfriend, Donald. They'd been together nearly 7 years. When I asked about it, she just shrugged and said, "It was time. We grew apart. Happens to a lot of people." She never brought him up much after that, and I took that as a good sign. No photos of him in her stuff, no trinkets or keepsakes lying around. On the rare occasion his name popped up, she spoke about him like you talk about some guy you used to work with, not bitter, not nostalgic, just flat. So, I never felt threatened or worried that he was the one that got away. 2 years in, I proposed. 6 months later, we got married. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. My parents loved her from day one. Her folks seemed to like me well enough, and our friend groups blended like they were meant to. Married life came easy, and for a while I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. But now, looking back, I can see signs that I missed, signs I brushed off because I was too in love to think straight. About a year into the marriage, things started getting weird anytime we bumped into people who knew both her and Donald. She'd tense up, put on this overly cheerful face, like she was acting out a scene she'd rehearsed. I figured it was just the usual awkwardness around ex-talk. Didn't think too much of it. Then came last Christmas. Susan's old college friend, Kimberly, came to stay with us for a few days. We were all drinking wine and swapping stories, and Donald's name kept popping up in the conversation. I couldn't help but notice how tuned in Susan was. Every time Kimberly mentioned him, Susan leaned in, asked questions, laughed a little too hard. Something about her energy changed. "How's Donald doing these days?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Kimberly grinned. "Oh, he's doing great. Just got promoted at his firm, finally bought that lake house he always talked about. Still single, though. No one really measures up to." She stopped mid-sentence, realizing I was sitting right there, and looked embarrassed. Susan quickly changed the topic. But that night, I caught her scrolling through Donald's Instagram. When she saw me watching, she closed the app in a hurry. "Just curious," she said with a nervous laugh. "Wanted to see if he still had that terrible goatee." I let it slide, but the moment stuck with me. Something about it didn't sit right. Still, I trusted her. We had a solid marriage, barely fought, shared hobbies, and had even started talking about having kids soon. I told myself I was being paranoid. But about 4 months ago, things started to shift. Susan became distant, like she was living in her own head all the time. I'd ask what was wrong, and she'd give me that tired smile and say it was nothing. But it felt like she was only half there when we talked, like her mind was somewhere else. She started staying late at work more often. When she was home, she was glued to her phone. I'm not proud of it, but one night while she was showering, I went through her messages. There was nothing. No sketchy texts, no strange calls. It all looked too clean, honestly. Like someone had gone through and scrubbed the whole thing. It made me feel crazy, relieved on one hand, but more suspicious on the other. Doesn't make sense, I know. I tried to bring us back to center. I planned date nights, cooked her favorite meals, picked up little gifts. Every now and then, I'd catch glimpses of the woman I married. She'd laugh at my dumb jokes or cuddle up next to me during a movie. But those moments didn't last. She always drifted back into that distant place, like something was pulling her away. Finally, one night over dinner, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. "Susan," I said, "what's going on? Please don't say nothing. I know you. I know something's eating at you." She looked up, caught off guard, like I'd pulled her out of a trance. "I've just been stressed with work," she said, eyes darting away. "Is it us?" I asked. "Are you unhappy with the marriage?" "No, not at all," she said fast, almost too fast. "You're perfect. We're perfect." But the way she said it made my stomach turn. It sounded rehearsed, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. "Is there someone else?" I finally asked. I hated even saying the words out loud. She reached for my hand across the table. "God, no. I'd never do that to you. I love you. I'm just overwhelmed with family stuff and job stuff. That's all. I promise I'll be back to normal soon." And I wanted to believe her. I really did. Maybe a part of me still did. But even then, deep down, something didn't feel right. The night everything changed started out like pretty much any other. Susan had said she'd be working late again, and I was home making dinner. I figured I'd surprise her with her favorite, lasagna, the way she liked it, extra cheesy with that crunchy top. I even threw in some garlic bread for good measure. I wanted us to have a quiet evening, maybe reset things a little. I had just slid the bread into the oven when her phone rang. She'd left it on the kitchen counter that morning, which was weird on its own. Susan usually kept that phone glued to her like it was part of her body. Curious, I looked at the screen. It was Kimberly calling. I picked up. "Hey, this is Susan's phone," I said, trying to sound casual. There was a pause on the line before I heard, "Oh hey. It's Kimberly. Is Susan there?" "She's at work," I told her. "Want me to let her know you called?" Another pause. Actually, I thought she was with you," Kimberly said, her voice uneasy. "We were supposed to grab coffee a couple hours ago, but she never showed. I've been trying to reach her." My grip on the phone tightened. She told me she was working late tonight. Kimberly hesitated, and when she spoke again, her voice had gotten small. Maybe I mixed up the day or something. But I could tell she didn't believe that. And neither did I. After we hung up, I just stood there in the kitchen, staring into space while the lasagna kept baking and the house filled with the smell of something that was supposed to feel comforting. But my mind was stuck on one thing. If Susan wasn't with Kimberly and she wasn't at work, where the hell was she? I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. So I shot her a text, kept it light, just asked her to call me when she got a chance. Then I sat down at the dining table and waited. I didn't even touch the food. She finally came home a little after 9. Her hair was messy like she'd been out in the wind, and she looked worn out. Her eyes widened when she saw me sitting there in the dark. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" she asked, flipping on the lights. "Where were you, Susan?" I asked flatly. She paused. "At work. Like I said this morning." "Kimberly called your phone," I said, watching her carefully. "She said you were supposed to meet her for coffee today, but you never showed up." Her expression shifted fast, first surprise, then something like guilt, maybe even panic. Then she settled into this strange, forced calm. "Oh, God. I completely forgot about that," she said, putting on a tight smile. "Work's been so insane, I must have lost track of time. I should call her and apologize." "So you were at work?" I pushed, not letting it go. "Yeah, of course. Where else would I be?" I wanted to believe her, I really did. But something about her felt off. She was too still, her smile too practiced, like she was trying to act her way out of it. "I don't know, Susan," I said quietly. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." She walked over, wrapped her arms around me from behind, kissed me on the forehead like nothing had happened. "You're being ridiculous," she whispered. "I was at work. I forgot about Kimberly. That's it. Now, is that lasagna I smell?" I didn't press her any further that night, but the doubt had started to take root and I couldn't shake it. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I called her office. I asked if she was in. The receptionist casually mentioned that Susan had left early the day before. Around 3 p.m. said it was for a personal matter. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started paying closer attention where she said she'd been, how often her stories changed, the way her explanations started getting more elaborate. The woman I thought I knew inside and out was becoming a stranger to me, and that realization hurt more than I can explain. Then came Tuesday, the day everything really broke open. I was working from home, finishing up some reports when my phone rang around 2 p.m. It was Susan. Her voice was shaky, almost frantic. "Donald was in a bad accident," she said, jumping straight into it. "It's serious. Really serious." I felt my chest tighten. "Donald? Your ex?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. "How do you know about this?" "Kimberly called me," she answered quickly. "Please, can you come pick me up? I'm at the office. I need to get to Memorial Hospital." I agreed, even though my mind was spinning. I couldn't make sense of it. Why was she this torn up over a guy she hadn't dated in years? And how did she hear about it before anyone else? When I got there, she was waiting outside. She looked a mess, mascara running, hands trembling as she climbed into the car. "What happened to him?" I asked as we pulled away. "Car accident," she said, barely holding it together. "He was headed to a meeting and a truck ran a red light. Hit him on the driver's side. He's in surgery now." I glanced at her. "Kimberly told you all this?" "Yeah," she said quickly. "She's friends with his sister. Please just hurry." The hospital was all the way across town, and the ride was quiet except for her occasional sniffles. I kept driving, trying to process everything. I mean, yeah, Donald getting hurt was awful, but Susan's reaction? It went beyond normal concern. This wasn't how you respond to news about some old flame from your past. This was different. As we pulled into the hospital lot, I finally turned to her. "Susan, why is this affecting you like this?" I asked. "It's horrible what happened, yeah, but why does it feel like this is more than that?" She looked over at me with red, puffy eyes. "Please," she whispered, breaking down, "I have to be there. I still love him." And just like that, time stopped. I don't even remember breathing. I sat there in the car, frozen, listening to those words echo over and over in my head. She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like it didn't shatter everything between us in one breath. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. All I could do was drive her the rest of the way, pull up to the entrance, and watch her get out and run inside. No goodbye, no thanks, no pause to check if I was coming with her. In that moment, it was like I vanished. Like I didn't exist. I stayed parked there for what felt like forever, just staring at the building. Part of me wanted to follow her in and demand the truth. But a bigger part of me already knew. It all made sense now, why she'd been distant, the missed coffee with Kimberly, the late nights that didn't add up. She'd been seeing Donald again. I had no idea how long it had been going on. I didn't even care at that point. All that mattered was what she'd said. She still loved him. And she said it like it was the most honest thing she'd said in a long time. Eventually, I made the drive home. But stepping into the apartment didn't feel the same. It was like walking into someone else's life. Everything looked familiar, but nothing felt right anymore. I wandered into the bedroom, sat down on the edge of the bed, the same one we'd picked out together at IKEA, laughing like idiots as we struggled to put it together, and I knew what I had to do. I made up my mind. I was done. I started packing, slowly and deliberately. Just the essentials, some clothes, my personal stuff, documents I didn't want to leave behind. I didn't touch the furniture or electronics. None of it mattered anymore. The stuff we'd picked out together, once filled with memories, now just felt like clutter from a chapter one didn't want to reread. As I moved through the apartment, memories played on a loop in my head. Our first date. The way she smiled when we unpacked our first box together. Our wedding day. And then the questions crept in, was any of it real? Or had she just been biding her time, trying to make it work with me while still holding a torch for her ex? Before I left, I grabbed a notepad from the kitchen drawer and scribbled down one line. "Don't worry. He can have you now." That was it. I thought about writing more, something raw and honest, laying out the hurt and betrayal, but what was the point? The real choice had been made long before I ever picked up a pen. I called my buddy Steven and asked if I could crash at his place for a while. True to form, he didn't ask a single question. Just said, "Of course, man," in that steady way that makes you feel like you're not completely falling apart. Then I took one last lap through the place that had been my home. Our home. I paused at the doorway for a second, then quietly shut the door behind me. Just like that, I was gone. That night, I powered down my phone. I wasn't ready to hear anything she had to say. The next morning, I called my boss and asked for a few personal days. He didn't press for details. I spent that day with a lawyer going over divorce options. Felt strange, unreal. Like I was watching someone else's life come undone. 3 days later, I finally turned my phone back on. The screen lit up with missed calls and messages. Dozens of them, all from Susan. The early ones were confused. "Where are you? What's going on? What did you mean by that note?" Then came the panic. "Please call me back. We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding." And finally, desperation. "I didn't mean it. Please come back. I made a terrible mistake. I love you, not him. You." I read every message, but I didn't feel much, no rage, no tears. Just this dull, empty numbness. The shock had burned itself out, and all that was left was silence. I only listened to one voicemail. Her voice cracked with tears. "Please, please call me back." What I said in the car, I wasn't thinking straight. I was just scared. Worried about him like a friend. That's all. "I don't love him. I love you. Please come home so we can talk." "I'm so sorry." But sorry didn't cut it. Not anymore. Stephen let me stay with him for a couple of weeks while I got my footing. I found a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just enough space to sleep, work, and be alone. I threw myself into work, hit the gym more, started reconnecting with friends I drifted from over the years. On the outside, it looked like I was holding things together. Inside, though, I was a wreck. My head was a tangled mess of sadness, frustration, and betrayal. Susan didn't let up. The texts and calls kept coming. One day, she even showed up at my office, but I told the front desk to send her away. She emailed me too, saying she'd been confused, that seeing Donald hurt had stirred up old feelings, but feelings that didn't mean anything anymore, that it was me she loved, me she wanted. But every message felt like another wound, another lie. Through some mutual friends, I found out Donald's injuries were bad, but not life-threatening. A broken leg, internal bleeding, and a concussion, but he was expected to recover completely. I also found out Susan had been visiting him at the hospital every day, staying for hours. Yeah, just a concerned friend. About a month after I left, Susan's younger sister Rebecca reached out. She and I had always gotten along, so I agreed to meet her for coffee. I figured I owed her that much. "She's a mess," Rebecca told me, absently stirring her latte. "She knows she screwed up big time. By telling me she loves him? Or by sneaking around behind my back with him for who knows how long?" I asked. I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. Rebecca's eyes widened. "What? No, she wasn't seeing him before the accident. Not like that." I raised a brow. "Come on. I mean it," she said, leaning in. "I'm not saying she didn't mess up. She did. And what she said to you, yeah, that was awful. But they weren't having an affair. At least, not physically." "What does that mean?" She exhaled. "They reconnected on Instagram about 6 months ago. Just messaging back and forth. Harmless stuff at first, catching up. But about 2 months before the accident, it turned into long messages. Late-night chats. She told me she felt guilty, even though nothing physical happened. Said she was confused. "She should have told me," I said coldly. "I told her the same thing," Rebecca said. "But she didn't want to cause problems unless she was sure about what she was feeling. It was stupid." She stared down into her coffee. "For what it's worth, I think she really does love you. She just got lost in nostalgia and started wondering what might have been. When Donald got hurt, she panicked. All that confusion came rushing back. And that's supposed to make it okay?" I asked. "No, it doesn't. I just thought you deserved the full picture." I thanked Rebecca for being straight with me, but my answer didn't change. It wasn't about whether she cheated physically or not. It was about trust. And Susan broke it. She gave her heart, even just a piece of it, to someone else. And then she lied to me while doing it. Some betrayals you just don't come back from. 3 months after I left, Susan and I finally sat down in person. Not to patch things up. There was no fixing what had been broken. We met to talk about how to divide what we'd built together. The logistics. The leftovers of a life that used to feel whole. We chose a quiet coffee shop, neutral ground. When I walked in and saw her sitting there, it hit me harder than I thought it would. She looked tired, thinner, worn down. There were dark circles under her eyes. For a second, I felt a flicker of concern, but I pushed it aside. Thanks for coming, she said softly as I took the seat across from her. I gave her a nod, keeping my face unreadable. I figured it was time we talked logistics, I said evenly. A flicker of hope crossed her face. Is that all you want to talk about? That's all, I said, my tone leaving no room for interpretation. I've filed for divorce. My attorney will be in touch with yours. Her expression crumpled like paper. Please don't do this. We can work through it. I made a huge mistake, but I still love you. You're my husband, she added, almost like it meant something now. And you're my wife, the same wife who looked me in the eye and said she loved another man, I said, my voice sharp. A man you'd been messaging for months without saying a damn word to me. She winced like the words physically hit her. Rebecca told you. She did. And I appreciate her honesty. You might try it sometime. I should have told you when Donald reached out, she admitted. I get that now. But it wasn't anything physical, I swear. We were just talking. Catching up. Emotional affairs still count, Susan. You don't need to sleep with someone for it to be betrayal. She reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled mine back. It wasn't even really an emotional affair, she said, almost pleading. I was confused. His messages brought back memories and I got swept up in all that. But I love you. What I said in the car, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was scared. That wasn't the truth. Then why were you at the hospital every single day? I asked, already knowing the answer. She blinked, caught off guard that I knew. I felt responsible somehow. The timing, everything going on, I don't know. I thought if I made sure he was okay, I could finally let go of all the confusion and focus on us. I shook my head slowly. You ran into that hospital without even looking back. Not once. You didn't check on me, didn't acknowledge what you just said. In that moment, it was crystal clear where I stood in your life. That's not fair, she said, her voice cracking. I was in shock. People say all kinds of things when they're overwhelmed. Or maybe they say the truth, I replied. Maybe in those moments when the mask slips, you find out what's really under there. She started crying. Silent tears ran down her face. I made a mistake, she whispered. One terrible, awful mistake. You're really going to throw away 5 years over that. It wasn't just that moment, I said, leaning back. It was everything leading up to it. The silence. The distance. The lies by omission. Making me feel like I was imagining things. And then when it finally came out, it rolled off your tongue like it was nothing. I still love him. You didn't hesitate, didn't take it back. And then you tried to bury it afterward instead of owning up to it. We sat there for a while without saying anything. The weight of everything we'd lost hung in the space between us like fog. Eventually, I stood. My lawyer will contact yours about the details. I think it's best if we don't meet like this again. She looked up, her voice barely a whisper. So that's it? You're not even willing to try to forgive me? I paused, really thought about it. Some things you can't unhear, Susan, I said quietly. Some damage you just can't undo. I hope you find peace, whether it's with Donald or someone else. But it won't be with me. As I turned and walked away, she called after me. He's nothing to me now. I realized that the second you left. Please don't go. But I didn't turn back. That was 3 months ago. The divorce is in motion, though not as quickly as I'd like. Susan's dragging her feet. Keeps pushing for mediation, asking for one more chance every time we meet. Honestly, if she weren't the one who tore it all down, her persistence might almost be admirable. But instead, it just feels like she's clinging to something she didn't value until it was gone. Through the grapevine, I've heard Donald has fully recovered. He's walking again, back at work, even tried reaching out to Susan to start something up again. She turned him down, apparently. Told anyone who'd listen that he meant nothing, that I was the one she loved, that losing me was the worst mistake she's ever made. Too bad she didn't realize that before she told me without hesitation that she still loved him. I've been in therapy trying to make sense of it all. Some days I feel okay. Other days not so much. I miss the life I thought we had. I miss the version of Susan I believed in. But that woman? She either changed or never really existed. The divorce is still crawling along, Susan's hesitation slowing things down. Then, last week, she sent me something unexpected, a handwritten letter. No text. No email. Just actual ink on paper. In it, she laid everything bare. She walked me through how her contact with Donald started, an innocent message here and there, then deeper conversations over time. She admitted she felt flattered by the attention, drawn to the comfort of someone who knew her before all the complications of adult life. She said that when his sister called about the accident, she panicked. Her feelings were already all jumbled up and the fear made everything come rushing to the surface. She didn't think, she just reacted. And what came out was the worst thing she could have said. She owned all of it. No excuses. The letter ended with this. I see it now, what I couldn't see before. Donald wasn't someone I was still in love with. He was a symbol. A piece of the past back when life felt simple and light. I didn't love him, I loved who I used to be when I was with him. But you were real. You were my home. My future. I was a fool to risk that for a ghost. I'll regret it for the rest of my life, no matter what happens. I just hope there's still a chance, even a small one, that you might forgive me someday. It was raw. Honest. Beautiful, even. I believe parts of it were true. But when I folded the letter and tucked it away, I knew my answer hadn't changed. Some bells don't unring. Some words, once spoken, echo forever. And trust, once shattered, never comes back without leaving scars behind. Susan still reaches out from time to time, calls I usually ignore, texts I sometimes read but never answer. She's clearly still holding on to hope that we might find our way back to each other. But as far as I'm concerned, that door closed the day she told me she loved someone else. I'm doing my best to move forward. It's not always easy, but I'm trying. I've started dating a little, nothing serious yet, just dipping my toes back into the water. Most of my energy right now is going into work, into rebuilding the parts of my life that got cracked wide open. I've even been toying with the idea of relocating, new city, new apartment, clean slate. I think that's exactly what I need. Life doesn't stop for heartbreak. It just keeps moving, whether you're ready or not. If there's a takeaway from all of this, and I've thought about it a lot, it might be that the worst betrayals don't always come from cruelty or manipulation. Sometimes they come from a place of raw, unfiltered truth. Not the kind that's been calculated to hurt, but the kind that slips out when a person stops pretending even to themselves. Susan didn't set out to ruin our marriage that day in the car. She wasn't plotting or trying to hurt me. But in that moment, when her guard was down, she let a truth surface, maybe one she hadn't even fully admitted to herself. And that truth, that she still loved her ex, undid everything we had. Because it meant everything we had wasn't built on what I thought it was. Or maybe the lesson is simpler: be careful what you say when emotions are running high. Words can escape before you realize their weight. And once they're out, you can't pull them back. Either way, I'm moving on. Still solo, still healing, but I'm wiser now. And maybe that's enough for today. To clear up some common questions. Yes, I'm confident there wasn't a physical affair before the accident. Several mutual friends confirmed it, and Susan's sister even showed me some of their texts. It was emotional territory, sure, but nothing crossed a physical line, at least not before the crash. No, I don't see myself reconsidering the divorce. I appreciate those who suggested counseling, and I understand where you're coming from. But some things go too deep to patch. When trust dies, so does the relationship it held together. A few people have asked if I've spoken to Donald. I haven't, and I won't. He's not the point. This was never about him, it was about what Susan chose to do and say. To those who think I might be too hard on her, maybe. Time has a way of softening things. But I don't think forgiveness always has to mean reconciliation. I know what I want from a partner now, and it's someone who doesn't have to question who they love. And yeah, for the folks asking about the dog, she's snoring beside me as I type this. She's not going anywhere. Turns out Susan saw it. One of her friends recognized our story and sent her the link. She was upset at first, understandably, but after reading through the comments, she said it helped her see why what she did cut so deep. We had our first calm, honest conversation in a long time. No pleading, no tears, just two people finally accepting the ending. She's agreed to sign the divorce papers without dragging it out anymore. Strangely enough, this post gave us both a bit of closure. Funny how things work out sometimes. As for me, I accepted a new job offer, different state, fresh start. I'll be moving in a couple weeks. New city, new everything. Might sound like a cliche, but right now it feels exactly right. And before you ask, yep, the dog's coming with me.